योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिम्। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर् गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। हरिः ओम्। In the previous session, we had started with Sutra 4.12. atītānāgataṃ svarūpato'styadhvabhedāddharmāṇām. So the context in which the sutra arose, as explained last time, was the question that if something cannot come out of nothing, which means nothing can be created out of the blue, which means nasti asataha sambhavo, if that is the case, and further nacha asti sataha vinashaha, what exists cannot be destroyed. If that is the case, how are we able to talk about the vasanas going away and the vasanas getting destroyed? So that was the question. So the question in particular was about vasanas, but the answer has been generalized to talk about each and everything. So in the Kaivalyapada, you will see in many places where a particular is picked, but when providing the solution, a very general answer is given, which applies to almost everything. So here the answer came in the form of Sutra 4.12. atītānāgataṃ svarūpato'styadhvabhedāddharmāṇām adhvabhedāddharmāṇām. So now, we had already started looking at part of the bhashya, so I will not repeat it. But in particular, it talked about the fact that the principle that each and every dharma is existing in one of the three adhvas. The adhva is like a path, is a way. Here it says adhva shabdaha kala vachanaha. So it refers to, with reference to kala. Kala means time. What we usually refer to as past, present and future. So last time we had seen that something may be in a state of future, which means it exists today, but it is in a stage of yet to come, not yet manifested. Something that has manifested, that is vartamana, which means it has manifested, it is available to be known, it is available to be dealt with, means it is jnaya and it is suitable for vyavahara, which means one can interact with it, one can name it, one can know it. So that is vartamana. Then there is atita. Atita means what has been experienced. Okay, so that the state of experience is already happened and it is in a state of experience, anubhuta. So there are these three adhvas and all of them svarūpato'styadhvabhedāddharmāṇām. They do exist in essence. So at any given time, each and everything exists in one of these states in the form of svarūpa. It's not as though something never existed and suddenly came up out of the blue. So that is something you can refer to the previous session where we had gone in a little more detail. Now we continue in the bhashya. Where Vyasa says kincha, which means furthermore. So he is bringing in another point. Okay, another point to provide the necessary explanation as to why one says that all of these exist. Okay, everything exists in one of these three states. It is not as though something that did not exist suddenly came about. So the other point is kimcha bhoga bhogi yasya va bhoga bhagi yasya va apavarga bhagi yasya va कर्मणः फलम् उत्पित्सु यदि निरुपाख्यम् इति तत् उद्देशेन तेन निमित्तेन कुशलानुष्ठानं न युज्येत. So any karma which is either of the form of bhoga, which means that leads to, it's a worldly karma leading to worldly experiences, whether pleasant or unpleasant, or apavarga bhagi, it's a karma that leads one towards moksha, kaivalya, etc. So either kind of karma, action, for which the fruit is to come, every action has a fruit as per karma siddhanta. So the utpitsu phalam, which means the fruit that is going to come. If it is something that does not exist, yadi nirupakhyam means something that does not exist. Okay? Because if we don't accept the principle that everything exists in one of these forms or one of these states and then gets manifested in the right conditions, if we don't accept that, then we'll have to say, okay, it did not exist. But if the phalam, if the fruit did not exist, then tat uddeshena tena nimittena kusalanushtanam na yujyeta. So if the fruit did not exist, then with that fruit as the aim or purpose, taking recourse to good action, kusalanushtanam, means taking, so for example, doing punya karma for eventual sukha. So if you do good dharma, you get sukha. So good activities, because the fruit is going to come. But if you say that the fruit does not exist, then why would one undertake such meritorious activities? Or if you take recourse to certain activities that can lead to moksha, which is a higher kind of an activity, which is without any aim, without any purpose for sukha, but out of bhakti, out of jnana, etc., then that moksha karma also, if that fruit is not, if it is said that does not exist, then why would one undertake it? So kusalanushtanam, giving the advice of taking recourse to meritorious deeds, that does not make sense. So it is na yujyeta. It doesn't seem right. And that is another, furthermore, Jasa is implying that is another reason to not accept a doctrine that says things don't exist and they suddenly come. So that doctrine, he says, is flawed. Everything exists. Okay, then if everything exists, then what happens? He says, satascha phalasya nimittam vartamani karne samartaha na apurvopajanane. So he says, okay, then what happens is this fruit, this phalam, it always exists. Okay, sat, it is sat, means it is existing. It has a properties of being. So of this kind of fruit, what happens? There is a nimittam for vartamani karanam. There is a particular triggering condition or a set of triggering conditions that make it manifest, that make it part of vartamana, by which it becomes knowable, doable, able to deal with, so part of vyavahara, part of available to jnana. So it gets triggered and it becomes manifest when those conditions are met. So then he is saying that the karmas that are going to bring about a fruit, the fruit always exists, but it is in a anagata state. However, once the nimitta is in place, once the necessary conditions are in place, it will become manifest. Okay, so therefore, there is a certain underlying coherence and underlying sense in having this principle that things exist, but for them to become manifest and part of the present time, the proper conditions have to take place. So that is nimittam, to make it vartamanikaranam, to make it part of the present. And not for apurvopajananam. Apurvopajananam means something that never existed and suddenly gets created. That is not the role to bring about the fruit. The role of the karma is to manifest something that was always present, but not in the state that one can. It's part of experience and dealing, so it is not manifest. But once the necessary conditions are in place, it becomes manifest. So there is a very nice example in Yoga Vartika. I'll just read out. It says, Tathacha avyaktavasthaya satah vartamanatayam karana vyapara saphalyam. So what is saphalya? Means successfully bringing about the fruit. What is that? It is from the avyaktavastha, from something that is an unmanifest state, as yet unmanifested state, bringing it to vartamanatayam, bringing it to the manifest present state. Karana vyaparaha, activity to bring about the causes in the right way. That is saphalyam. Because when one performs activity that brings about the necessary triggering condition for a fruit to get manifested in this state as a vartamana or present, that is what is saphalyam. Further it says, drishtam cha karana vyaparena sadeva abhivyajyate iti. So even in worldly experiences we see that by karana vyapara, by activities that are part of the cause, okay, that create the cause, okay, or bring about the cause. Sat eva abhivyajyate, something that pre-existed, that itself, that alone becomes manifest. This is something we see in our day-to-day experience, he says. Drishtam cha means this is seen. A beautiful example comes, he says, yatha pashaneshu satam eva pratima padmadinam laukika vyaparena abhivyakti matram iti. So very beautifully he says, just as in the rock, okay, in the big rock, there is a pre-existing lotus or a pratima, an idol of a deity or a lotus, etc. It is ever present in the rock. But by laukika vyapara, by the sculptor doing his activities, he merely makes it manifest. That shape always existed in the rock. But by chiseling away the rock, the sculptor is merely making manifest what already existed. Okay, so the beautiful example of sculpture, it's not creating something, it is something that already existed. The sculptor is an instrument for making it manifest. So similarly, it says the karma, the fruit already existed in a certain state, the phala. The karma merely plays the part of being the activity that makes it manifest. That is what the Bhashya said. Satascha phalasya nimittam vartamanikarane samartham na apurva jananam. Siddham nimittam naimittikasya vishesha anugrahanam kurute na apurvam utpadayati. It says, okay, it is established that the nimitta, the triggering cause, the condition, mainly it sort of provides the service for the naimittika, whatever is going to come about. It merely makes it, gives the anugraha. It creates the necessary condition for it to come about, and does not create something that never existed before. Na apurvam utpadayati. So something that did not exist is not created. Something that already existed but was not manifest, it creates the necessary conditions for it to come about. So this is the other beautiful point that Vyasa makes here.
So the question came up with regards to vasanas. Do they really exist? Are they existent entities or non-existent entities? So vasanas should be accepted as existent entities because we see that they work. It's not non-existent. But then, if they are existent, we don't see their manifestation all along, all through. Like for example, when a male child is born, the male child will be getting mustache, etc. After a particular stage in life. It doesn't manifest. It is not manifest on the face of a baby, mustache and beards, etc. So when the changes take place, physiological changes take place, then they appear. So when they are not there, they are not non-existent, they are unmanifest. So with regards to vasanas, their existence is one thing that has to be accepted. They are all the time there. But they are potentially there when not actually there. And that's what we see in the phenomenal world, that there is something potentially there, then actually there, and then goes to latency. So these are the three advas. These are the three paths. Atita, Vartamana, Anagata. Anagata, Vartamana, Atita. So the vasanas do exist. You may not see the manifestation. You may not be able to prove that the vasana is there. Because the vasana has to manifest for us to testify that it is this vasana, it is that vasana. So therefore, vasanas are existent. Then why is it that sometimes they seem non-appearing and sometimes appearing? So they appear and do not appear. It happens. So when it is potentially there, it will not be appearing. When it is actually there, it will be appearing. When it is gone to latency, it will not be appearing. So we should not mistake with appearance and disappearance with existence and non-existence. So the point is, these vasanas are ever existing. So what do we experience in life? That sometimes the vasanas are potentially there. Like all babies are innocent when they are in the cradle. But as the child grows, then we see that different children have different traits, different potentials, and different kinds of mind stuff. So they manifest gradually. However, they are there in their infanthood and childhood, but we can't see them. We can't see that the child is going to be brilliant. We don't see brilliant child when it is in cradle, but the child is going to become brilliant. Or we don't see that the baby in the cradle is stupid, but when the child grows, then the stupidity becomes visible. So not to mistake between visible and invisible on one hand, and existent and non-existent on the other hand. Because if the vasanas are untrue, why would we bother about it? So vasanas are true. And then we have seen that the vasanas do not all the time be in manifested state. So atita anagatam. So when the vasanas are not seen, experienced, they are either in atita state or anagata state. But that doesn't mean the vasana is not there either in atita state or anagata state. Svarūpataha asti. They are svarūpataha there. They are essentially there. So this is what we have to understand about the vasanas, because vasanas will not be all the time manifest. Different manifestations will be there at different points in time, different stages in life, different conditions in life. Now they have to be existing to be manifesting. That is the standpoint of the Satkaryavada philosophers who believe in Satkaryavada, that they are ever existent. So that is being mentioned in the sutra, atītānāgataṃ svarūpato'styadhvabhedāddharmāṇām. As you heard, Adva is the path, because past, present, future, or potential, actual, latent are the paths. And that's why the things come from the path. Something potential becomes actual. So it's a path for potential to become actual. And there's another path for actual to become latent. So these are paths. And all the things are traveling through these paths. Potentiality, actuality, and latency. So although there is something as potentiality, when we do not have the perception of existence, yet it exists. And after actuality is gone, we don't perceive them to be existent. They do exist. We cannot perceive them to be existent. They do exist. It is because of the atītātvam, that is, having gone to latency. So, as you heard about the karma phalas, so when you do a particular karma, you don't see the phala there and then. The phala comes after some time. The fruition of your act comes after some time. So the fruit has to be existent for it to manifest. So it will be in a potential state as long as the fruit has not come to our hands, to our experience. So the apurvam is not generated. What doesn't exist is not generated. It is not brought into existence. What it actually exists potentially becomes now actual existence when the fruition is experienced. Just because you don't see the fruit of your karma, suppose you have done virtue and you don't see the effect of it, you can't say that the effect is not there. Effect is to manifest. It is yet to manifest. Otherwise, we would not be engaging ourselves into virtuous deeds for sukham. If we think that the fruit is not actually there in my good deed, then why will I do it? So it is potentially there. So karma and karma phala, there is a process. Karma is done. The phala comes after some time, maybe immediately or immediately. Maybe quicker or later, sooner or later. But the fruit exists. Unless it exists, it doesn't come into existence at all. Non-existent things won't become existent. So this standpoint of the Satkaryavadins, the Sankhya philosophers and Vedantins who believe in Satkaryavada has to be understood. So that is what is explained and you heard with the example that was quoted to you. So we do certain karmas which result into bhoga. We do certain karmas which result into apavarga. So the bhoga is not actualized when you do the karma. It is going to get actualized in due course. So also if you are doing apavarga karma, the apavarga will not be sighted. It will not be inside the horizon, but it is going to appear in due course. So the point is, what is not appearances should not be deemed as non-existent, and what is appearing only is existent. This will be shallow point of view standpoint. So in metaphysics, it is so important to understand this aspect, that there is potentiality, there is actuality, and there is latency. Atītātvam, vartamānattvam, anāgatattvam. So the order is anāgatattvam, vartamānattvam, atītātvam. So in one phase it will be appearing. In two phases it won't be appearing. So non-appearance should not be taken as non-existent. And in Satkaryavada, the apurvam, what is not existent, will not come into existence. So that's how the whole Karma Siddhanta would be understood better with this in mind, that the fructification doesn't pertain to something which is non-existent. So suppose the virtue is giving you pleasure and before the fruit comes, you don't have pleasure. So it doesn't mean that non-existent pleasure has come into existence. The anagata pleasure has become vartamana pleasure. And the vartamana pleasure after a while will become atita pleasure. The pleasure will be there as a fruit of virtuous, meritorious deed. It doesn't turn out apurvam. Non-existent things are not turned out as fruition. They are existing, but potentially existing, subtly existing, and therefore they are svarūpataḥ existing, essentially existing all through, all along. And non-existing things don't come into existence at all for Satkaryavadin. And that is quite a sound position that Satkaryavadins have taken. That is what was discussed. So dharmas will be appearing. Dharmi will be there. Various dharmas in the form of characteristics will appear and disappear, will come and go. But the substrate of it will be there, and all those characteristics are potentially there, and then only they can come to actuality. So this is an important consideration in metaphysics and in Karma Siddhanta. Okay.
So Vyasa continues. He says, Dharmi cha aneka dharma svabhavaha. Dharmi, so dharma refers to attributes or characteristics. Dharmi is the one who has those attributes or characteristics. So it is the underlying thing, underlying substrate, having those dharmas. So the dharmi is of, the nature of the dharmi is that it has aneka dharmas, several possible dharmas or several dharmas. So dharmi cha aneka dharma svabhavaha. Tasya cha advabhedena dharmaah pratyavasthitaah. Now with regard to this dharmi, who has the dharmas or the characteristics, there are several dharmas, each separately exist in advabhedena, in different, so let us call it states. So adva means they may be something that one can interact with, which means it is vartamana, or something that is yet to come, which means anagata, something which has already come and gone, so it is anubhuta or atita. So in one of these three advas, that each dharmi exists. Pratyavasthitaah means each prati means each. So pratyekam dharma exists in one of these advas. न च यथा वर्तमानं व्यक्तिविशेषापन्नं द्रव्यतो अस्ति एवं अतीतम् अनागतं वा. Further it says, just like the vartamana, which means something that is in the present, it has manifested, one can interact with it, experience it, etc. That is vyaktasūkṣmā. It has formed a specific individualized state of manifestation, that dharma. Dravyataḥ asti. So it is like as part of the substance of the dharmi that can be cognized, that can be interacted with. The atita and anagata are not of that nature. So the vartamana is something that has obtained, that is manifested, obtained a form, can be cognized, can be interacted with. However, the atita and anagata do not have those properties. Katantari, then what is the case as regards atita and anagata? Svena eva vyangyena svarūpena anagatam asti svena cha anubhuta vyaktikena svarūpena atitam ti. So the answer is given separately both for anagata and atita. So in what form does anagata, which means something that is yet to come, in what form does it exist? It says svena eva vyangyena svarūpena. So it is of the form that can be triggered. So it is vyangya. The manifestation can be triggered, but has not been triggered. What we refer to as latent or potential state. So in that svarupa of something that can be triggered, it is the anagata is in that state. So anagata is in potential or latent state which can be triggered. So that is the svarupa of the anagata. Then what about the atita, which is something that has already happened? Sena cha anubhuta vyaktikena svarupena. So it is in the form of something that has already taken place, something that it has already experienced. So that is a separate form. It is also a form that one cannot interact with, one cannot directly cognize through our normal senses. Yogis can through the alaukika pratyaksha. So that is a different thing which we also touched upon in the last session. But to normal senses, it is not available for cognizing or interacting. So it is also subtle, just like anagata, but it is of a different nature. Anagata is latent with something that can be triggered, whereas this is subtle in the form that something that it has already experienced. That is known as anubhuta vyaktikena svarupena. So now it has been answered in what state the vartamana dharma exists, in what state the anagata dharma exists, and in what state the atita dharma exists. वर्तमानस्य एव अध्वनः स्वरूपव्यक्तिरिति न सा भवति अतीत अनागतयोः अध्वनोः. So the final manifestation, the actual swarupa, is existent or available for interaction or cognition only for the vartamana adhva. So that path of being in the present state, only for that the swarupa vyakti exists for interaction and not for the anagata and the atita. Ekasya cha adhvanah samaye dvau adhvanau dharmi samanvagatau bhavatah eva iti na abhutva bhavah trayanam adhvanam iti. So lastly, this is the final sentence, he says, for one, at the time that one of the parts, okay, ekasya cha adhvanah samaye dau adhvano dharmi samanvagatau bhavatah. So when one of the states is, say, manifested, the other dharmas, they are still part of the dharmi samanvagatah or dharmi samanvagatau. So the others are also existent. So the word here is samanvaya, but it's difficult to translate. But let's say it is it's sort of part of the nature, the form of the dharmi, the underlying substance. It is very much, it is dissolved and exists in that substance. The other two also. And none of these ever come about that they had never been and they suddenly came about. Na abhutva bhavaha. So something that never was there and suddenly came about, that never happens. Na abhutva bhavaha trayanam adhvanam iti. So the final conclusion, in none of the three cases it happens that something that did not exist and suddenly came about. No, that doesn't happen. Whenever one was there, the other two were also present, but they were sort of latent inside in the dharmi, as part of the dharmi. So that covers the bhashya. Let me also mention that in one of the very highly regarded Upanishads, and one of the said to be the most ancient ones, the Chandogya Upanishad also, there is the 6th adhyaya known as the Sadvidya. A very, very famous line that says Sadeva Somya Damagra Asit. So that Sadvidya can also be seen as the seed of the Satkaryavada, where it says this Sat existed. Only the Sat existed at the beginning. So there are different interpretations given by different schools, but the schools that accept the Satkaryavada, they do trace it to the Sadvidya. And there is also something, a famous line there. So Sadeva Somvedam Agravasit means at the very beginning there was only Sat. Okay. Now what does it mean? What is Agra? What is Sat? Because there is another line in the Upanishad that says Asadeva Somvedam Agravasit. How can both be true? What is Asad? What is Sat? Etc. It's not a topic for today. But I just wanted to mention the relation between the Satkaryavada and Sadvidya and the tracing to the very important and old Upanishad, the Chandogya Upanishad. The maximum number of examples from the sutras from the Brahma Sutras refer to the Chandogya Upanishad. And there is also another line from the same Sadvidya which says Vacharambanam Vikaro Namadeyam Vrittiketyeva Satyam. So this is something we will touch upon probably in the next sutra or after that. So that I'm just sort of drawing the line for those who are also maybe studying the Vedantic texts, etc. Particularly in the Vishishtadvaita interpretations, you will see a relation between the Satkaryavada of Sankhya Yoga and the Sadvidya of the Chandogya Upanishad. So here essentially what Patanjali and Vyasa have driven the point that non-existent suddenly become existing is something that never happens. Everything exists in one of the three advas, and therefore as far as the vasanas are concerned, we can then understand that something that was in the Vartaman Avastha or Vartaman Adva, which is manifested, which is functioning, etc., that can go into the Atita Avastha, something that has already happened. Or similarly, something that was in Anagata state, it may never become Vartamana. It may either directly go into, it will simply never become Vartamana. So that is also referred to earlier as Dagdha Bija, the burnt seed, which is never going to sprout. So this is how it is reconciled that even if we say that vasanas are destroyed, what is the meaning of destruction here? And how does it work well with Satkaryavada, which does not accept creation, does not accept destruction. It only accepts manifesting, okay, or having been manifested, going away into the Atita Adva. So that is sort of rounded off in this sutra and the Bhashya 4.12.
So you just now heard that Satkaryavada is postulated in Upanishads. Chandogya Upanishad called Sadvidya. Sadeva Saumyedam Agrasit. Then it also was followed by another quotation from the same Upanishad, Asadva Idam Agrasit. What is this? Sad and Asad both are said to be there in the beginning. So it is to be seen this way that the example of the banyan tree. You know, the banyan tree is so huge, gigantic, huge umbrella which gives a lot of shade under it. Then it has its source in seed particles. So that is also beautifully explained in Chandogya Upanishad. The preceptor tells disciple to pluck a fruit, cut a fruit, and take out the seed, break the seed, take a particle and break the seed particle. And what do you see inside? He says nothing. So he says it's not nothing, it is nothingness. It seems to be nothing. That is why it is nothingness. And from nothingness comes this huge gigantic tree. So in a seed particle you don't see tree. So the tree is non-existent in that sense in a seed state of the tree. But it is not metaphysically non-existent. Because had it been non-existent, then the seed would not have produced the tree. But do you see the tree in a seed particle? Do you see that there is a root part of the tree, there is a trunk part of the tree, there is bark part of the tree, and a leaf and fruits and flowers parts of the tree? You can't identify them in the seed particle. So therefore, in that sense, that form of the tree is not visible for you in a seed or seed particle. However, it is potentially there. That's why it happens. So although the two statements seem to be contrary, they are not contrary. They are this the latter one is substantiating. So the meaning of asad is different there. And this samanvaya comes in Brahma Sutra's first chapter, which is called samanvayadhyaya. The statements seem to be contrary, and there is no contrariety. They are holding one and the same tenet. But the words used there give us expression that they are contradictory. So the tree doesn't exist in a form we know the tree while it is in seed. Right? But it doesn't mean the seed doesn't exist. It does exist potentially. That's what Patanjali has made it clear in Satkaryavada, that it is potentially there, or even after it has gone past its manifest state, it has gone to latency because nothing can be destroyed. The real cannot be destroyed. The existent cannot be destroyed. That's another aspect in Satkaryavada. If something exists, it exists forever. If it seems to be not there, it is not non-existent. It is in some other form. But it is existing. So that's the interesting aspect and very, very profound aspect in Satkaryavada, which came our way for discussion in the Sutra particularly. Okay, the point is atītānāgataṃ. The Vartamana state will not be an object for you while it is potentially in a potential state, nor the Vartamana state will be for you for your perception when it has gone to latency. However, svarūpato'styadhvabhedāddharmāṇām. This is metaphysicist's view. It tells us that it is svarūpato̩ existing. It is essentially existing, either potentially or latently. So that's a very important discussion in metaphysics, which has come our way in this sutra. Okay.
Okay. So now we move on to the next sutra, which is sort of a continuation of this one. So 4.13, it says, Te vyaktasūkṣmā guṇātmānaḥ. So those are manifest or subtle. Vyaktasūkṣmā, manifested, subtle. Vyakta means manifested, sūkṣma means subtle. Guṇātmānaḥ, made of gunas. Sattva, raja, tamo gunas. What does te refer to? Te refers to tīyadhvabhedāddharmāṇām, the dharmas, the attributes of the three adhvas that we just saw. So the dharmas of the three adhvas, they are vyaktasūkṣmā, manifest or subtle as the case may be, and they are all made up of gunas, guṇātmānaḥ. So that is the meaning of the sutra, te vyaktasūkṣmā guṇātmānaḥ. And this statement is made in case there is any doubt. What is this subtle state? What is this potential state? What is this experience state? What is it made up of? Is it something different than what the world, the creation itself is made up of? So it is no. All these things are still made up of gunas. Even when it is in a atītātva, when it is in a anāgataṃ, it is still made up of the same sattva, raja, tamo gunas that all of the creation is said to be made of. So other than the Purusha, whatever exists, it is made up of gunas, and so do the dharmas, whatever their state among the three adhvas, whether manifest or subtle. So te vyaktasūkṣmā guṇātmānaḥ. That is Sutra 4.13. Now let's look at...
So what is constant when the things are going through potential state, actual state, latent stage? So they are going through these different adhvas, different paths, and therefore we see them differently, something potential, something actual, something latent. But then what is the concomitance, which is the steady factor, which is the constant factor? The constant factor, what is existing, is sattva, raja, tamo gunas. And that is what the sutra is saying. That there is something that is constantly there. They are all guṇātmaka. Whether vyakta or subtle state of the object. What is constant? Gunas are constant. In potential state, it is constituted by gunas. Actual state is also constituted by gunas. Latent state is also constituted by gunas. So that is eternally there. That's the constant. That is what this sutra is telling us. Okay.
So Vyasa says, Te khalu ami tridvana dharma vartamana vyaktasūkṣmāno atītānāgataṃ sūkṣmātmānaḥ. So the dharmas, te khalu ami tridvano dharmaः vartamanaḥ vyaktasūkṣmānaḥ. So the dharmas are of the three advas that we just saw. Among them, the vartamana are vyaktasūkṣmānaḥ. They are manifested. So those that are, we refer to as those that are there in the present, they are manifested. Vyaktasūkṣmānaḥ. On the other hand, atītānāgataṃ sūkṣmātmānaḥ. So there are two subtle states. One subtle state is something that is yet to come, potential or latent, or the other subtle state has already happened. So here sūkṣma refers to that they are not indriya gochara. They are not available directly to our senses, the normal senses. So that is what is sūkṣma, subtle. So both these other two advas, the atita and anagata, are sūkṣma. Sarvam idam guṇānāṃ sanniveṣa viṣeṣamatram. Okay, so all of this is, be assured, all of this, they are merely the specific arrangements of gunas. Okay, so it is all still gunas. Sannivesha vishesha. So they are vishishtas. There is specific combinations, specific formations of the gunas and nothing else. Sannivesha vishesha matramiti. Paramarthatah guṇātmānaḥ. So in the paramartha, in the final analysis, in the ultimate analysis, whether they are vyaktātmānaḥ, whether they are sūkṣmātmānaḥ, they are in the ultimate analysis, they are all guṇātmānaḥ. So all of them are made up of gunas. Tathacha shastrānuṣāsanam, and therefore in the shastras it is said, says the Bhashya. So here the shastra refers to the existing Sankhya texts, something like Shashti Tantra, etc., that we have heard of, referred to. The texts are not available today, they have been lost, etc. But from the commentaries, etc., there are references. So, Tathacha Shastrānuṣāsanam, in the Shastra it is said, so Vyasa, Guṇānāṃ paramam rūpam na drishtipatam ricchati yattu drishtipatam praptam tanmāyeva sutucchakam. So the paramam rūpam of gunas, the gunas by themselves, not evolved into something, not in some specific combinations, etc. The gunas by themselves, in their own essential form, are not available for us to see. Na drishtipatam ricchati. So none of our senses, none of our indriyas can reach that form. Yattu drishtipatam praptam. So whatever is available to the senses, whatever can be cognized, tanmāyeva sutucchakam. That is something that is transitory, temporary, in some sense discardable because it is ever changing, like maya or illusion. So here there may be a doubt: is this mayavada? Is the whole world is illusory? Is that what is being said? So it is made clear: mayeva natu maya. This is maya eva, like maya. It doesn't say it is maya. Like something that may be an illusion that comes and goes away. So it is temporary, transitory. Similarly, whatever forms of gunas that are available to our indriyas, they are also temporary. None of it is permanent. It is ever changing. So yattu drishtipatam praptam. Whatever is available to our senses can be cognized by our senses. It is always made up of gunas, no doubt. There is nothing other than the gunas. But whatever forms are seen, they are always temporary, transitory. similar to how the illusion may come and go. So Maya Iva is Maya Iva Sutuchakam. Whereas the actual essential form, Gunanam Paramam Rupam, is something that can never be cognized. Na Drishtapadam Richati. So Vyasa draws our attention to an sort of a more ancient or an established couplet from what he refers to as Shastras. And therefore, here it is established that even having discussed things like anagata, atita, etc., everything is still made up of gunas, and everything is specific formations, specific arrangements and combinations of gunas, both the manifested state or the one of the atītānāgataṃ, the subtle states, they are all made up of gunas and they're nothing else. So that's Sutra 4.13.
So Guṇānāṃ paramam rūpam, that cannot be cited, that cannot be object of our intelligence or our senses or our mind. That's what the quotation of Vasiganyacharya from Shashti Tantra mentions to us. So, the gunas are material cause of everything. Now we see the gunas in all manifest creation. So we say something is good, something is not good, something is dangerous, something is quite securing or safe, etc., etc. But the material cause is the gunatrayas, sattva, raja, tama gunas, manifest in countless forms, universal forms. All forms in the universe emanate from sattva, raja, tama gunas. And therefore, we cannot see their essential form. We only see the manifest form, and therefore something good, something not good, something safe, something not safe, something dangerous, something not dangerous, something poisonous, something nectarine. So we will not be able to identify the Paramarupam. That is never cited. That is what Vasiganyacharya tells us in the couplet that you heard just now. So the gunas are indeed marvelous entities. And the word Maya has come here. The word Maya cannot be rendered into English. Because the verse from Bhagavad Gita, where it says, the Gunamayi Srushti is Mama Maya. It is of divinity. So when it is divinity is Maya, it has a different connotation. It cannot be rendered into any other language. The Maya term should be retained as Maya. If you turn it as delusion, then delusion is in human empirical plane. This is not empirical plane. It is Maya. So Maya is a mysterious concept which comes in our philosophy and religion. So, some form of it is tucham, transitory. But in the sukṣmā rūpam, the gunas are there in eternal aspects which are existent but not available, existent, not cognizable, existent but not visible. So, when the gunas evolve, when they evolve further and further and further in the phenomenal creation, then it becomes transitory, momentary, and tucham. But essentially, sattva, raja, tamas are gunam, daivi. Daivi hi esha gunamayi, mama maya durantaya. Therefore, it is difficult to cross over. So there are beautiful concepts called Adi Maya, Mahamaya, which comes in Tantras, which comes in the mysticism. But anyway, the gunas, the word Maya that has come in the couplet cannot be rendered in any language. Maya must be maintained as Maya. It has special connotation, specific connotation. Okay.
So there is sort of much to ponder about, because just as we saw that the example of the rock already containing the form of the idol or the form of the lotus, etc., where the sculptor merely comes and makes it manifest. That also tells us that each individual, all of us, have several potentials, and only the right conditions, creation of the right conditions can give rise to it. So there is much to ponder, much to draw inspiration from, and much to understand how the karma siddhanta operates, where the right set of karmas can give rise to states that we may not imagine exist within us, but they can be brought about when the right triggering conditions come. Guruji also has said, it's a true understanding of motivation and the movement of moments. He has used this phrase several times, where the movement of moments releases a yogi from the knot of bondage. So the atītānāgataṃ, etc., can be pondered about, can be seen in practice, like Guruji used to say, the gap between an inhalation and exhalation, or exhalation and inhalation. That is the time where the moment can be seen, and so on. So this whole topic of the dharmas being in different states, getting manifested in the right condition, and in a certain way the flow of time gets inverted because something is in a potential future state, then it becomes in the present state, then it goes in the past state. So rather than past, present, future, it is as though it is future state, present state, past state. So with that, I think we can end the session for today, covering 4.12 and 4.13, and there's some further clarification coming up in 4.14 and further. Okay, so let's stop for today. Recite the slokas of Guruji. Stop. Vajñānikam pravakritva asaneshu kalavidam yogaabhyase cha tattvajñam vandeham sundaram gurum yoga vruksho hi lokesmin yat preranena vardhitah yogacharya guru tubhyam sundaraya namo namaha. Thank you.
Namaskar all of you.